Yes, the world might tell us that you've got a right to be angry and hurt for this. The Guru doesn't tell us that anyway, because the Guru's wisdom is way beyond that. That doesn't mean not to recognize that. But you read it. How did I get there? Just because you've got to do self-work, that doesn't make it okay for somebody to continue to be hurtful. Yeah, that's separate. Suniai Parr. Let me read myself. This is where sukh is. The Guru's work is taking us beyond our ego at every point. But the Guru is saying first become aware of that. That's Parr. Padna apne aap nu Punjabi ch kehndे ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀ. And then you start becoming aware and you think, oh yes, I get it. Because of my identity, I was so invested in that identity, and I actually forgot who I was, my truth, that actually I'm a soul. And I heard, this is all I am. Now, I forgot to take the mask off. These roles are masks to serve God in different forms, in different ways. And now that gets hurt. Eventually, if we don't get to this level of looking at it, it will keep resurfacing. You start to understand, what is it that I need to go beyond to get to Gyan, to get to that true wisdom. Otherwise, it means we've got stuck in the illusion. Welcome to the Japji Sahib podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be going through the 10th Pauri, the 10th stanza of this amazing Bani blessed to us by Guru Nanak Dev Ji. So what we're going to be looking at today is there an art of how to become more self-aware and how to start reading our own self, and what that even means to get to know yourself more and be able to read deeper into other people too. What does that even mean? So let's get into it and let's learn about what Guru Nanak Dev Ji is sharing with us today. So first of all, let's welcome Preet Charan Singh onto the podcast. Let's say a Fateh. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Thank you, Ji, for having me on.
No problem. So let's go straight into it. Suniai Sat Santokh Giaan. So here Guru Nanak Dev Ji is saying that through that deep inner listening to that one's name, and as we are becoming more and more focused through the recitation of God's name, and we start to actually form that direct communication with God, and where our guidance starts to come from there now. And so if we break these three things down now, so what Guru Nanak Dev Ji is saying is that when you have that now, that inner connection, that you naturally start to now live in Sat, in truth, meaning that just your ways will become more truthful now. And those ways, when you becoming truthful, how do we know now that they are coming from that deep inner knowing? There'll be a few kind of signs for us to look out for to know that, because sometimes we could probably, end up convincing ourselves that I'm living truthfully, and we might not be able to know how to look out for the signs that are we really living truthfully. So there's a few things here. We could read something, and then we can learn from that, and we are then trying to go by that. So let's take an example, just something as simple as speaking the truth, right? So I could read that, where I can read that, okay, so part of our dharam, part of living this way of life, according to the Guru, is to speak the truth. Let's just take that, because this truth here, truthful living, isn't just about speaking the truth. It's deeper than that. But if we were to just take that, if you gave me now the Ratnama book, and I was to find in there, oh look, is to speak the truth, right? And I could take that, but I could still use it I could still bring my cleverness into it. And I could think, well, I'm doing the right thing and I'm living truthfully, but actually my intent behind it is to try and bring you down and make you look low and make you look small in front of everybody else. So I'm speaking the truth there, but actually I'm causing a lot of damage and it's not coming from a pure place. So in that sense, that truth that living truthfully, that way of living truthfully, or speaking that so-called truth, will never come from inside, from God. That will come from our cleverness. And that's, trying to manipulate, what we've read and trying to do the right thing. And sometimes, obviously, there can be that other side to it as well, is where somebody genuinely just, think that they are doing the right thing. Yeah. And so, but again, it's not coming from inside, because when it comes deep from inside, there won't be no such thing as they think they are doing the right thing. It will just be the righteous thing, the right thing, because something that comes from God can only but be pure. Yeah. So, and it's important for us to understand, and this is a bit of a dangerous topic to touch on, but I think it's important to touch on because, we're trying to go into the depth of this topic. A lot of the times we will hear that what important is the intent of something. Let me give you an example. Like, we might have an intent in that sense. We might not be aware that I'm going to be putting somebody down now. This isn't the appropriate time to say this truth, to speak the truth here, because it's actually going to do a lot of damage, right? But my intent is, well, my gurus said to speak the truth. So my intent is that I'm just going to follow my guru and I'm going to speak the truth here. So your intent is pretty, righteous there, pretty pure there. But you can still make a mess, even if in that context your intent was somewhat trying to do the right thing. Well, not even somewhat, you're trying to do the right thing by the book, right? But just because your intent wasn't evil, it still doesn't mean it was the purest thing to do in that moment. Yeah? So this is deeper than even intent worked out by our intellect. Yeah? This isn't that, because even that you can make a right mess. Look how many people you've got in this world today. Look how many people you've got that follow different faiths, and them following their faiths, they are trying to do the right thing by their faith, right? But by doing that, they could still be, so their intent is that we're just trying to follow the faith as we understand it to be the way and the truth. But in that, somebody could be taking other people's lives. Somebody could be killing somebody else. Somebody could be saying, well, this isn't how it was intended for you to follow God. So actually, we're going to now torture you. But if you ask them about their intent, it's like, we're trying to do the right thing. Yeah, because that's what we've been told by God to do. Yeah. And I think in today's world and society, because people have got so much information to so many things, and people will be having these conversations and thinking these things. So I think it's important for us to start speaking on that level of depth as well. that's why Suniai, sorry, I've got it back. So that's why Suniai is actually much deeper than that. It's actually coming from the core itself. And in there, you will be actually like living the truth. Yeah. Even when you're going to be truthful in speech, like it won't come from that place. It won't come from that so-called misinterpreting, like, you know, something to be pure and that intent. Yeah. And it won't come from a place of making somebody look small as well. Yeah. Like you'll know when the right time is. You'll do it and that will then spill into everything in your life.
There's a podcast that we've both watched. I can't remember the guy who's on it. It was the Diary of CEO, and they was talking about lying and being truthful, and they gave 2 examples.
Is it Simon?
Well, yeah, I think it was that one. And
like
he was talking about the workplace where, you know, you might have the secretary and someone calls up and the secretary of the person, you know, that they're saying, no, I can't talk right now. So the secretary says, oh, he's not here. And the intention was good, but that's a lie. And it starts as a trickle. And that then goes into the culture of the organization. It's okay to do that. It's okay to say that my boss isn't here, when actually the truth is. And there's so many other things that secretary could have said that would have been truthful. It could have been like, I'm sorry, my boss isn't able to speak to you right now. Can I take a message? And the boss pulled her up on that, because these little things then can seep into the culture of the organization. Another example, if you remember, was the play. So the guy went to see his friend's play who was acting in it, and the play itself wasn't very good, but he was so happy to see his friend act in the play. And when asked for feedback from his friend,
straight after the actual
play,
he
then,
and she was still had a adrenaline was high, and she was still pumped.
Yeah. And so do you do you lie and say it was amazing, or do you tell the truth and hurt their heart? Well, you can do both, actually. And he explained how that, you know, it was amazing to see you in that play, and then afterwards, when adrenaline came down, he's like, can I give you some honest feedback, because you're my friend, and I would and I think you'd appreciate that. And then they were able to have the full truth. So that
those are perfect examples.
It's the intuition of knowing.
Yes.
And in those situations, it's the truth will not hurt. And we know so many examples of our Gursikhs in our history that whatever they said was so important. And in this world of Kaljug, it's something we have lost, and it's something hard to practice as well, isn't it? But the Gursikh does practice the truth at that level, and with love and compassion.
Yeah, those were thank you for bringing those examples forward, because it makes it so much more real. And because this practice of truth, it can continue to, even when we are feeling certain emotions. And sometimes you can be in denial of them. And it's even, but when you start to listen to that true Naam inside, when you listen to that one, then you're no longer afraid, and you're not in denial. You know, you're very truthful even to yourself, that, oh, look, this is what's going on. This is where I'm at. And you're able to start looking at these things. You know, so in every aspect of your life starts to become more truthful. But truthful from from your core. And we could link these together, these qualities, because there's 3 qualities here that have been put forward to us. And I think, I'm trying not to do that through this series and podcast of giving multiple translations, but I will just bring it forward. And I think something that Professor Sahib Singh did was, what he's done here is saying that, like, when we look at Sat Santokh Giaan, the way Sat has been spelled. And he said that it could have been spelled in the same way as it was spelled in the Mool Mantar. And it could have been with Sassa Tatta Tatteno Sihari, and from the word Satya, so like as in the truth. So what Professor Sahib Singh's done is he's looked at this word and he's put that when Sat and Santokh come together, and it's not spelt that way, that Sat can also be translated to when you have the quality of giving, right? And again, when you give intuitively, you'll know when the right time is to give, where to give. And often that nature of giving also comes from Santokh, actually can only come from Santokh. The true giving comes from Santokh, from being content. Santokh means content. And when we're in a space of contentment, you'll find that you will just naturally give. And because you're full now, you're so fulfilled from inside, and now you want everybody else to feel that, experience that fulfillment. And you want to now take them there as well. You want to take them there to that place of contentment. Because there's that giving, when you're giving somebody the necessities of what they might need, living within this material world, or even this body is a part of that, and it needs food and whatever else its requirements are. But then there's a much deeper giving. And that deeper giving is when you have found contentment within yourself. It's now your giving becomes like, yes, you fulfill those needs. Somebody needs clothes or somebody needs whatever else, but also you want to bring contentment to their life. Because you know that that is actually what people are looking for, whether they know it or not. And it's going to be a never-ending chase for them. Because you can actually reach a place of being content inside, and then be able to know that there's nothing I need externally that is going to complete my inside, because my inside is complete. Yeah. But you could still separate and recognize, but I need food for this body, but I need clothes for this body, I need a shelter, right? But you understand that separate to you thinking that is going to help you alter your inner state. Yeah. And that's contentment. Contentment is knowing there is nothing of this material world from this matter that can help complete me.
And you spoke about in a previous episode about knowing what you need. By listening, that intuition will come. I need this much food, and you've got that shabad from Arti. They say Jantana Leva Mangal, that whole shabad. They know exactly what they need and want for Bhakti, for their marg. So it's not
Bhagta Kabir Ji's one as well, where Bhagta Kabir Ji say doi ser mango. Is it chuna?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So doi ser mango chuna. So it does start from there, where Bhagta Kabir Ji is saying that well actually, and that's all I need. That's separate. That doesn't mean Bhagta Kabir Ji isn't content. He's just stating the obvious of it's kind of what this body needs. Sort it out. And but I'm not saying, in no way is Bhagta Kabir Ji saying this is going to complete me internally, right? And we all know that anyway. We've done that vichar so many times, right? So Suniai Sat Santokh Giaan, and I just felt that I did really want to share both of the arth, how Sat can be translated. It can be translated to truthful living, and it can be translated to becoming of this giving nature. Yeah. And I think the way I look at it is actually like they're both kind of intertwined, where like the more you are living that way and the more you are living truthfully, it will give you this sense of contentment. There's not this, because often when you're not living truthfully, there's something that's eating at you inside. There's something just there, like your consciousness just knows and isn't allowing you to just be completely comfortable. So when you and that living truthfully takes you to that place of contentment. When you're content, you will naturally just effortlessly be able to give. Yeah. And the word Giaan here is referring to this, we've translated it to divine wisdom. And this divine wisdom is that only when we become content, when that outside chase stops. Yeah. So you could still go for your promotion. You could still go for, trying to get your business to whatever level and stage. Look, we can listen to the stories of so many people and where they have been, they're in top positions of whether they are a lawyer or, we can start, even naming people that we listen to. Like there's somebody called Rich Roll who does a podcast. He's a very, successful lawyer. But he had an alcohol issue, right? So where money is concerned, in the position he was in being a lawyer, there wasn't any, people think it's where we need to get to. But eventually when they kind of turned their life around and they thought, okay, so we've already done that in our life. So we could earn money again now through a different kind of field and manage to kind of come away from the alcohol. But it's not just money, because we had money then. So now what? Then they kind of like really start questioning themselves. And in the end, it's what conclusion they come to is that we need to serve. It's only serving that is going to actually give us that true, where you feel a part of this. You feel complete. You only feel complete when you start serving. And, and you might then, you find that means of serving. Some people, like for him, example, he set up a podcast because he wanted to have conversations and help people towards fitness and living a more meaningful life. But at the back of that, he's managed to find ways of making money from that as well, which is very important for people to understand. You might find your means and way of serving, but you could still be earning from it. That is providing your essentials. Yeah. But the key question here is that if the money element was taken away from them for doing that work, but they were financially secure anyway, would they still be doing that work? And all of these people have said yes. Suniai Sat Santokh Giaan. And the Giaan here is that wisdom, and the wisdom of what is actually the truth. What is here that is permanent, what is impermanent. And so all of this spiritual divine wisdom comes from that deep listening. So if we move on to Suniai Athsath Giaan, and then what's been said here is Athsath is actually referring to 68. And there were like 68 predominant known holy places of pilgrimage to go and bathe, which some believed that you could, if you visit all of them, you'll wash all the kind of filth of your karma and you'll be liberated. But we know that Guru Sahib has said to us that actually it's naam, it's when you when you connect and you praise God, and when you go beyond, when you break away from your ego, that's what it is that's going to cleanse you from inside. And so what's actually been said here is, like, often we'll, even the way we've translated it now, is that saying that one is purified as if one has bathed at the 68 places of pilgrimage. But we're not here claiming that you will be, cleansed or you will be purified after bathing at 68 places of pilgrimage. What we're saying here is that as a belief by certain, people, that would happen, right? Guru Sahib is saying, well, actually, let me tell you that when you listen deep inside to that name of God and go beyond your egos, that will definitely purify you. Yeah. And it's said that those did. Guru Sahib isn't saying that they do. Yeah. And in that way, you'll become purified. So I think we'll give the context of that understanding being purified. We're understanding through the vichar we're doing anyway, right? So, and then Guru Sahib Ji go on to say, Suniai Parr, Paveh, Maan. So this is where we pose the question for, and I know we've ended up spending most of our time discussing truthful living, and then we've ended up trying to understand what it could mean to do a certain job, but it's still of a serving nature, and it is still your service, and it could still get you to God in that sense. But this is kind of like where we pose the question for, was this Pangti here is saying that Suniai Parr Paveh Maan, and we've translated it to that one obtains honor as those who are very well read. And how did we get to that? So that's the literal translation. So it's saying that Jinane Parr ke, those that, read, that are so well read, and they are kind of scholars and they are masters at their subject and topic. And you know how they receive Maan, they receive honor in this world. Like when somebody says, oh my God, that person has got so much knowledge, they're so well read in that certain topic. And people in this in this age rate them, and they were before as well. But in that way, Guru Sahib Ji saying that actually it's somebody through their deep listening, they learn how to Parr, they learn how to truly read themselves, meaning they become very self-aware of what is happening within their own self, within their own mind. They start to learn the patterns of what is going on within themselves. They're able to read themselves very well and come to a deeper understanding of themselves. When somebody has that level of self-awareness of themselves, so they kind of understand, what is it that, how do I get to that point of feeling angry? Why do I end up getting hurt so much? And they start to read their own self through that deep listening. They go deep inside and they start to see the patterns that, oh, actually, that hurt came because this particular form and layer of ego was hurt, was attacked, and I wasn't expecting that, right? And then my intellect went crazy trying to protect it. And because I was so identified with that layer of ego. Because remember, when the wisdom that the Guru is giving us is so profound and is the truth which helps us to truly escape from any form of shackles. Yes, the world might tell us that you've got a right to be angry and hurt for this. The Guru doesn't tell us that anyway. Because the Guru's wisdom is way beyond that. And the Guru, but that doesn't mean not to recognize that. That would be Parr, the first level. You read yourself, you acknowledge, like when we said Suniai Sat Santokh Giaan, like Sat, there is you recognize the truth of yourself, your true state. But you read it. How did I get there? Yeah. Like, I'm not denying my hurt. So the hurt needs to be acknowledged. The hurt needs to, if another party is involved in that hurt, if possible, if they kind of close related to you, they need to acknowledge that hurt as well. Like, it doesn't make it, just because you've got to do self-work, that doesn't make it okay for somebody to continue to be hurtful. Yeah, that's separate. But this isn't talking about that. This is about reading yourself. Suniai Parr, let me read myself. This is where sukh is. Because many ways, sometimes we talk about going through a process of healing, whatever, but it doesn't still take us beyond our ego. And that's but the Guru's work is taking us beyond our ego at every point. In every line, that's what the Guru's doing, right? But the Guru's saying, first become aware of that. That's Parr. Padna apne aap nu. Punjabi ch kehnde hunde se. Tu apne aap nu padh. Tu apne aap nu sikh kiddaं padhna hai, right? And then say, learn how to read yourself. And then you start becoming aware and you think, oh, yes, I get it. Because of my identity of being a husband, right? I was so invested in that identity, and I actually forgot who I was, my truth, right? The Giaan. I didn't have the Giaan that actually I'm a soul. And I heard, this is all I am. Now, I forgot to take the mask off. That role was just, these roles are masks to serve God in different forms, in different ways. We've started to believe I am that. And now that gets hurt. And if we don't see, you might have to do certain work in the beginning because the hurt is so deep and profound, you have to make some. But eventually, if we don't get to this level of looking at it, it will keep resurfacing. It will keep coming back. Suniai Parr. Parr, when Gyani Kulwant Singh ji did an amazing arth to the second Parr. They said, when you become so self-aware of knowing how to read your own self, and you start to understand the layers of your own ego and what is going on with you, they say it will give you an insight to be able to understand and read others. Not reading others in a negative way of abusing that as a power and using it against them, because then that wouldn't be Suniai anyway. When it's Suniai, it's the reading of understanding someone. Yeah. And then now it's Parr. Paveh Maan. And that's where the true honor comes from. Because honor here is now, at that point, remember the honor is actually the robe of honor. And now you could feel or experience God giving you that robe in that moment when you start to become so self-aware and be able to read from that place of love and compassion. Yeah. You start to understand, what is it that I need to go beyond to get to Giaan, to Suniai Sat Santokh Giaan, to get to that true wisdom. Because otherwise it means we've got stuck in the illusion. Yeah. Because we're so invested in that. And that is then what causes us to not finish the game of karma and the cycle. It becomes the reason of coming and going, because you're not finished. You're leaving it unsettled. Yeah. So I don't know, if you ever looked at that line in that way before, if you've maybe discussed it before, or...
No, Virgie, I mean, I think we've discussed before in previous episodes how deep and sometimes difficult it is to connect with Japji Sahib.
Yes, I've heard that from quite a few people.
It's so difficult, and it's just like, thank you so much for sharing this with each other. It's honestly amazing.
And that's why I always, like, sometimes I find it's so difficult, like when I actually, like something very personal, when I can feel that somebody's just having to read Gurbani for the sake of it, and that's around me, and they're reading it. Somebody could be reading Gurbani fast and connecting. Somebody could be reading Gurbani fast and be capturing it with their surti and their awareness. But then there's literally, you know, when like you're chewing it and spitting it out, that just gives me a lot of anxiety. And like just a struggle with that because of the profoundness in each line could literally save our life. Yeah. So Suniai Laagai Sehaj Dhiaan. And the more, let's do a practical arth first, a practical translation first. So, which is actually one of the norm. You know, I try not to use that word nam yugti, but like as in a way of, you know, reciting Gurmantar, because you know there's no set way in that sense, and we have no authority of giving like a jugti in that way. But just one of the ways I've read it before and reflected on it could be that, like, you know, when you just say, when you're doing the Gurmantar and you're saying it out loud, Vaheguru, 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 and then I've heard certain Mahapurukhs just saying, then say, go quiet. You know, Mahapurukhs are referring to as like some saints or saints, and they say just go quiet and hear that vibration inside now. They say keep listening to it, and some people aren't able to hear it straight away. So you might have to do that for quite some time first. And literally, as you're saying it outwardly, you start hearing it inwardly. And so all it is, you keep so focused on that. And all you're doing is you're continuing to listen to it. So it's literally, as you're saying, Vaheguru, 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 you're so absorbed in the vibration and listening of it. And as you go quiet, you continue listening to it. And it's kind of just this vibration. There's no word to describe it. So it's like you can hear Vaheguru then being said inside without you using your tongue, but you're still listening to it. But your listening is becoming so fine and profound, you won't even realize at which point Sahaj here we could translate to effortlessly, because you don't realize when it's happened. Dhiaan, you actually fall into that deep state of meditation, and where you're just connected. You're with God. It's not like that's connected to this. You're just with God. Yeah, the mind has absorbed into into meditation. You become meditation. So that's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is that where in your everyday living it becomes like that. And what I mean by that is that you're so now in tune and intuitive. Just say we're having this conversation now. My just listening becomes so deep that, say if you're talking to me, yeah, and my then effortlessly, again, I'll just be in a complete meditative state and connecting to the deeper part of you, where I can now start to even experience the God that is inside of you and not just only inside of me. Because I'm just so, you know, focused. I'm listening so deep, and now that listening is only not towards within myself, but within you as well. As you're just talking, I end up connecting to the God that's inside of you, to that jyot. And that could happen then to a leaf, to a tree, to everything. You're just in this meditative state effortlessly with everything, because you just become so intuitive to everything. So that's the second arth we could do of that Bhakti. And we'll all experience that sometimes in different points of our life. Somebody's speaking and you go so deep into them, and you just connect to the truth that is inside of them. And then Nanak Bhagta, Sada Vigaas, Suniai Dookh Paap ka Naas. That, so if we'll just read out the literal translations of this, and we'll go deeper into these two Bhagti in the last one. Yeah, we'll get there eventually.
That's your last chance to do it.
My last chance, yeah. You know what it is? I just didn't expect to go so deep into like the Suniai Sat Santokh Giaan, which we did. Hopefully it will help to put things into perspective for a lot of people, and knowing that they might be doing an amazing job somewhere out there, but they're still dividing their life in saying, I went to work, now I'm going to do my bhakti. Like, is letting them know that, no, make your work into bhakti as well. Like, I've just done some bhakti in this way, and now I'm going to do it in this way. Yeah. And it was great to get paid for it as well, you know, and get comfortable with that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So Nanak Bhagta Sada Vigaas. So Nanak says the devotees always remain in bliss. Suniai Dookh Paap ka Naas. Through listening to the one's name, suffering and sin are destroyed. And we have gone into it a bit deeper than just that in the other previous sessions. So yeah. So there we go. An amazing conversation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, for being a part of this. Oh, Sangat ji, amazing. Continue this journey with us. Vaheguru ji ka khalsa, Vaheguru ji ki fateh ji.
If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, share and subscribe. Please donate and help spread Guruji's message. Link is in the description below. Vaheguru ji ka khalsa, Vaheguru ji ki fateh.